there aren't many people who would disagree that Elden Ring is just one of the best games that's been made. I mean, obviously it's not perfect. I mean, the open world was good, but it definitely wasn't like the best open world I've seen, and a lot of it was almost a little too much exploring, if you will. Just like it was so vast with almost nothing in it. And then a lot of the stuff was just repeated dungeons, which it wasn't great, and so a lot of the bosses were repeats too. But I mean, overall, it was just fundamentally a good game, and it was just enjoyable to play, especially your first playthrough. You just can't. That first playthrough, man, that experience, you just can't really replicate that in a lot of games. That's what I just love about the Dark Souls games in general. There also is that replayability to it. I don't think that Elden Ring necessarily has as much replayability as the others, just because it takes so long. Unless you really know what you're doing, and you're just kind of like beelining it. The replayability, I mean, it's there, of course. It's obviously not bad or anything, but I don't think it's because it's not as streamlined as the other games. I don't feel like the replayability is as there, if you will, as in the other Dark Souls entries. But anyway, all of those games, especially Elden Ring, are just great games to play. And I mean, if you've been living under a rock and haven't played it, I really recommend it. But recently they did an interview with Hidetaka Miyazaki. I love that name. Just a great guy. And he was basically explaining his vision for Shadow of the Erdtree, which is the new DLC that's coming out. And I just wanted to basically touch on that and just kind of show like you don't need to make these focus only on live service games to make a lot of money, because Elden Ring is the perfect example of somebody who just makes a fundamentally good game catered to the consumer and not to just making money. And then go figure, they made a lot of money off of it. This Hidetaka Miyazaki says Shadow of the Erdtree has had to be big because he wanted Elden Ring players to experience that sense of discovery and the sense of wonder all over again. And I would definitely say, especially going through Elden Ring the first time, you're kind of blown away by just how big and how vast and how captivating, I think that's a good word, the world of Elden Ring is. I mean, the lands between, which is where you're put, and just going from different location to different location, it's really kind of amazing how much they were able to pack into the world. Like I said, a lot of it was kind of redone, which I mean wasn't perfect, of course. Elden Ring isn't a perfect game, but it's pretty close. I mean, let's be real here, especially compared to all the other games that have been released. Says in an interview with PC Gamer, Miyazaki hints at how massive Elden Ring's expansion truly is. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. FromSoftware has been playing coy about the size of the Shadow of the Erdtree, the Elden Ring expansion, no more than 2 years in the making. In past interviews, the developer has suggested it's roughly the size of Limgrave, the starting area in the base game. Maybe even a little bigger. But I spent a full day in Shadow of the Erdtree at FromSoft's offices in Tokyo, and I can show you the estimate sneakily setting the studio up to under-promise and over-deliver. I mean, I think that's kind of what FromSoftware has done up to this point. It's just, which not even I think, I really like that because a lot of people, for some reason, I mean, you would think they would learn by now. They kind of overhype things that just turn out to be absolutely horrible. I mean, look at Cyberpunk and all of these other games that have been released. Suicide Squad. I mean, I heard a lot of stuff about Suicide Squad, and that turned out to be quite bad. Just look at the player count. And then you have From Software that doesn't really. I mean, they say stuff like, "Yeah, it's gonna be good," but you just don't know how good it's gonna be, and so it kind of the anticipation of it with the not over expecting, if you will. I mean, you kind of come to expect that from software, but you also kind of they tell you one thing and then you get more, and that's always nice to see, as where other games kind of overshoot, like Skull and Bones, like it's going to be the first quadruple A game, and it was like hardly double A. And so I always love that when they do these interviews and they're like, yeah, it's going to be pretty fairly sized. It's going to be pretty decent. And you get into it and you're like, wow, this is incredible. So at the very outset, there were a lot of possibilities, but one of the things that was determined very early on was the size. We wanted that sense of scale for this map because we wanted an experience for the player that was going to match that of the base game, We wanted them to experience that sense of discovery and the sense of wonder and exploration again. We needed a map that was going to uphold that and bolster that. And that's my other view of like DLCs and things like that for these games. Like you see a lot of these DLCs that get released and they add like hardly anything and they're trying to sell it for like 30, 40 bucks. And it's like, why is this just not part of the main game? It's almost like they just kind of drug out, if you will, the main portion of the game and then try and just resell it as DLC. I mean, that's kind of the takeaway that I get from when a lot of these companies release DLC and it's basically nothing. And whereas the Dark Soul, or FromSoftware, I should say, Dark Soul developers, FromSoft, when they release DLCs, I mean, it's a pretty hefty package. I mean, there's full on new areas, new weapons, new bosses, a new, like, pinnacle boss, if you will. I mean, they're just always really well done. And so I'm expecting this one to be quite good. I mean, we've all seen the trailers and everything, and it just looks incredible. I mean, it's Elden Ring. What can we expect? But I mean, that's just my gripe with a lot of these development companies nowadays. They're just so focused on making a cash cow that they forget that they're supposed to be making a game consumer first, and then after that, then the money starts rolling in. So gameplay first, not just it needs to make money, because the money follows good gameplay. I mean, it's really at the end of the day what it comes down to. If it's not good, people won't play it. If it's good, people will play it. That's just how it goes. And then also the DLC portion of it. Like Elden Ring's DLC is going to be 50 bucks, which is like, wow, that's almost the base version of the game. But you're getting like almost a new game on top of the base game, which is it's just going to be kind of crazy to me because it's like for all the people who haven't played it before, they're going to play through Elden Ring and then do the DLC and be like, there's just so much game there to play. It's actually crazy. And so I'm really excited to see what they do with the Elden Ring DLC, of course. And I hope that other development studios kind of take hint that DLCs, if they're going to be paid DLCs, they need to be something substantial to grip people's attention. Because these DLCs that I would say 80%, even maybe even more of the development companies nowadays release are just like half-assed garbage, really. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. And so yeah, I'm just hoping that somebody out there will take, maybe FromSoftware is onto something after realizing that they've been doing this for decades and that it's just been stacking victory after battle royale victory after battle royale victory, if you will. But anyway, yeah, let me know what you guys think if you're excited for the Elden Ring DLC and what you think about just the state of gaming as a whole with the DLCs and these other games that release. And it's like, what did I even just spend my money on? It's like I didn't really even get anything, like a new map in a multiplayer game. Cool, I guess. But yeah, anyway, if you guys liked the video, make sure to leave a like, and I hope to see you guys around. Peace.